Good afternoon. My name is Ruben Melendez. I am a strategic advisor at Global Links, and I am also the CEO of the Strategy Ops Institute. Today, we're going to talk with Kim Moore, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a minute. But we're going to talk about workforce development, workforce challenges, and have an interesting discussion of what's going on with the workforce and the shortage of tech talent today, and also what's coming in the future. How can we anticipate the challenges? So, Kim, thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy to host this session and be asking you the questions. So I appreciate your participation, Kim.
I am excited to join you, Ruben, and certainly to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to every employer, globally. So very glad to be here.
Thank you, Kim. Kim, may I ask you just first, I know you, for the last year we've been working and collaborating in this topic of workforce development, but can I ask you to introduce yourself and what is your role in your organization? Also tell us a little bit about your organization and what is your mission? Maybe start with that.
Okay, sure. Again, I'm Kim Moore, and I serve as a Vice President for Workforce Innovation here at Tallahassee Community College. Tallahassee Community College is, of course, located here in Tallahassee, Florida. We are a mid-sized institution, and we are recognized nationally, actually a top 10 college designation just last year. And recently, we were recognized as top 10 in the nation for one of the Bellwether Awards, and that's related to our work and workforce development. I would say to you that all of that points to our commitment to not only meeting the needs of our students, but also our community, which is, of course, represented by businesses as well. So looking at strongly how we provide not only a workforce for today, but also that future workforce. And I know that that's something that we both share that same commitment towards. And my role here at Workforce Development and TCC, I've actually been in education for the last 8 years, all in service as a vice president. But prior to that role, I actually served as the CEO for an economic and workforce development organization for 8 years. So I have the pleasure of connecting the business connection piece, working with employers to make sure that they have the workforce talent, and now doing that from the education side. So really offering what I call employers a comprehensive solution to meeting their needs.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, you answered my next question, which is awesome, because I was going to ask you, how did you get involved in workforce development? But as you explained, coming from the business side, employer side, and you brought that expertise into the education community with TCC. That is great, Kim. So, in terms of the current state, I like to start with what's going on today with the tech talent. In particular, discuss the technology skills and the shortage of talent in this field. So tell us, what do you think is the current state in terms of unemployment and as well as jobs availability? Why is the gap, and what's going on based on what you have done over the last, let's say, year, in terms of what's going on? What are the dynamics going on with this shortage of tech talent and technology skills like IT skills?
I think it's a combination of things. So I'll start with the first one that everybody needs to understand, just to put it in context, because, again, we are talking IT, but again, everybody recognizes that, that burden, that pain that we're all feeling right now in trying to identify workers is being felt across all sectors. So when I think about that, and what is the challenge, what's causing this, you really can't help but move to the fact that we have a shrinking number of work age people, just to be very honest. So this is the first time in decades that that's happened. So we start there, there's a smaller number. And then the other piece that when you drill down into a more what I would share with you as a high skill area would be IT, is that we just don't have enough individuals that are trained at that level. Does it present an opportunity? It does. You throw in other factors that we know are looming too, and that's childcare. There are a lot of folks that just haven't been able to get back into that workspace. Mm-hmm. They have children that are at home and being, taught virtually. Additionally, health risk could play a part. Early retirement continues to loom as one of those big challenges. And then just the gig economy. We found through the pandemic, just like with all silver linings, that, there's an opportunity, that there is this new world of work. And a lot of folks are looking at that, and gig economy being one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think you mentioned several factors for what's going on with the shortage. And you're right, it's not just tech skills, but in general. And one is the baby boomers are retiring. In fact, with COVID, they accelerated that. The second one is the gig economy and the acceleration of the digital, technology because of COVID. Created an environment where people started doing second jobs, or
Yes.
they got a physical job elimination, but then they started maybe driving on Uber to deliver food, or to doing websites or something else to take advantage of the digital and the technology in the gig economy. And then now that we're getting out of COVID, they're doing something else, and it created a balance in combination with many other factors, of course. But that's a good point, Kim. Do you see a difference? I'm just curious between what's going on in Florida, in particular North Florida, where you are. You're in the capital in Tallahassee, Florida, but compared to the rest of the country, or do you see it's the same situation, Kim?
It's the same situation, because again, one of the things that we saw with the pandemic is a lot of the pain point areas everybody experienced at the same time, some to larger degrees, and it was magnified, but literally all of the same challenges. And then when you throw in, with the IT sector, it's not just, IT standalone. You think about the role that IT plays in healthcare. You think about the role that IT plays in government, the role that IT plays in education. So all those different places where now trying to maintain or retain talent that's IT specific, and then also to attract talent, because there's this new world of work. So there's this real convergence that is national as well as global.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very much true. And in terms of lessons of the, I know you have been very involved with a lot of different organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, the Office of Economic Vitality, and training organizations like ours, and so forth. So one of the questions is, I guess, in terms of best practices that you have seen, what are things that you think that are working, that are helping to tackle this issue in terms of ecosystems and collaboration among the different, because each organization has an ecosystem, right? So the experience you have in terms of the importance and practices of working in ecosystems, from government to education to employers, so forth. What are some of the best practices, Kim, that you can share?
Sure. Some of the best practices that we all should want to point to and leverage is certainly in the realm of collaboration. So those communities that have come together with private sector, with education, with government to develop what I call a solution that's not only for today, but also for the future, that's where you've seen the best practices be birthed. For example, when you think about, our local area, we have our Chamber of Commerce, we have our Office of Economic Vitality that speaks to economic development, and then you have the private sector and education. There are ongoing conversations, and there's actually a group that's been stood up that specifically points to having this direct conversation on how we can meet immediate needs. Some of those things or activities or action steps that have come out of that, it's been, whether it's looking at apprenticeship opportunities, how do we grow the talent sooner and quicker? How do we customize it to meet, immediate needs? The other thing is just exposure. How do we make sure that from a pipeline perspective that we are going into area schools so that area schools, the students know about these opportunities, and that we're attracting more people to the industry because of what it means. So that's a handful, and I don't know if you want to talk a bit about those, but there's a few more that I can share as well as we go through the conversation.
Yeah, no, I wish we had 2-3 hours to go into detail, but the ones that you're mentioning, great. The one in particular that I am, very interested, because I think is something that it has shown a lot of interest from government to universities and so forth, like your organization, TCC, is the area of micro-credentials. Why are micro-credentials so important besides college degrees and master's degrees and so forth? What's going on? What are you guys doing? And is this important or not? And what can you tell us about micro-credentials?
Yeah, so micro credentials, there's a feverish pitch around those and the value that they bring to the workforce. And one, sharing and stating to an employer that this person is ready day one and that the skill set has been certified. So our college, TCC, believes strongly in that. I will tell you that all of my workforce programs that we deliver here, and certainly our credit programs, have embedded into them industry recognized skills or credentials. And really what that means again is that we have looked at industry as that guide to say, we have and ensured that these students have the competencies to be able to perform day one. I think why that is critical is because with the pandemic, we saw a lot of job loss, not only throughout the nation, but also the state and in our local region. And there was this push about how could we stand up programs that offer rapid credentials, those programs that allow you to get to a level of normalcy faster than you've ever done before. I believe that those are critical because I think for employers, it communicates that, you know what, education is listening and education is saying that we want to meet you where you are. And though it might be important to create the longer term, the degree programs that we're most known for, that here's an opportunity to align with you in a different way to meet your immediate workforce needs, and not just for your new workers, but for your incumbent workforce as well.
That sounds good. Now, there's some of these credentials and some of these career paths where technology providers, in this case, actually should say training providers, such as the case of Global Links, have a lot of expertise. And so I know we've been collaborating with you with some of the surveys, for example, on DevOps. But how is is TCC and your organization working with other education providers, in particular, training and certification companies? I think the answer is yes, but how are you doing it in general, Kim?
Yeah, I think it's important to communicate that. I think we have a great privilege here. I actually chair our Career Pathways Council for the region. So that includes educational entities that range from our high schools to our, post-secondary at the 2-year level, as well as at the 4-year level with our university partners. And the whole intent, and if communities aren't doing this, again, it points to what you asked earlier about best practices. If they're not doing this, they really should consider having this centralized group where education is coming together to hear what workforce needs are. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting later today, and in that discussion, it will include an employer talking about their industry so that we hear it first from the employer's mouth about what it is that we need to do to best prepare for that workforce. And oftentimes, though we're talking about hard skills today with IT, we know that there's just this whole critical factor too about soft skills, or what we refer to as future ready skills, so that really an employer can count on students that are coming from these educational institutions as being ready day one, both from the skill perspective as well as being ready, and I call it to commit to being a good employee, i.e. showing up on time, avoiding conflict situations, how to manage those, and so forth.
That sounds great. Now, let's talk a little bit about the future. We've been talking about what we are doing and what you have been doing. And as you know, I am an advocate of these advanced technologies and the concept of or some people call, which I do too, is called the human plus machine. So the workforce and the way work is done is evolving. It started with automation, a couple of decades ago. Then now with the advanced data, science, analytics, and now with the idea that AI, well, not an idea, the fact that AI in certain business areas is becoming more applicable to businesses. And that is changing because now technologies are doing a lot of the task, either decision-making, analysis, or actually performing the work that humans are. So there is going to be more reduction on some of the physical, jobs. For example, I saw lately some of the announcements. I saw in Europe, there's a company already marketing a robot for pizza makers where
Oh,
there's one
wow.
employee in a pizza shop, and the robot makes everything. McDonald's just bought a company that has AI based, drive-through teller
Yeah.
machine where is eliminating a person in the drive-through or two persons, for the taking orders. So now some people say, well, technology is a threat, but at the same time, there's a shortage of those people doing those jobs. So
Correct.
it may actually be a good thing if we think about it. However, these technologies are going to create other jobs in terms of how to train the technology, how to use the data, the analytics. So there's more the workforce, I guess, the skills of the workforce are becoming more cognitive based, more on the analysis overall,
Mhm.
and less in the physical effort of the work. It's still going to exist, of course, but it's becoming moving more at a tier for the analysis and decision making, which is going to create a lot of jobs for that. And there's a shortage. So my questions to you is for the future. So how are you factoring this and besides working with myself and us in this area, what else are you as your organization as well as the overall university working to plan for the future of what's coming here, Kim?
Yes, so I would say that we're doing it in a variety of ways. One that I will share falls under my division, and that's working directly with employers. We work with employers throughout the state of Florida, and that is rethinking work. Having that conversation that points to, yes, you may have had a traditional plan, but now we all know through the pandemic and everything else and where we're skating to, you're going to need to reimagine work. We're looking for greater efficiencies, looking for opportunities to scale those things that are doing well, and then looking at opportunities where automation makes the best sense. It's
Mhm.
not weeding out or doing away with people, it's using them in a different way. So
Mhm.
having that conversation is one that we're doing. I would say that also in some of our key industries, IT being one of them, but also in manufacturing, we are scaling up with specific equipment that points to automation and how you train the workforce that supports this
Mhm.
partnership that happens with technology, the machine, and the person, what that looks like, and inviting not only employers in for those conversations, but also those area students in our community and just community residents as a whole, because this is something that everybody needs to be brought along together so that they fully understand it and that they don't assume that it's an us versus them, that
Mhm.
technology really can be an important part of how we work.
Mhm. Mhm. That makes sense. And so, what I like to do is, focus a little bit in Florida, in terms of what's happening there. Because I'm familiar with, I've been spending a lot of time in Florida, as you know, but I'm more familiar with other states, such as the state of Ohio. But if you were to give some advice, for example, let's start with individuals. Let's say that individuals which lost their jobs, they're unemployed, and this could be middle, level managers, and or individuals who just came out of college, okay, or high school, that they need to find a job. So where can they go? Are there I guess, ways for them to be trained for free or not? What organizations, what is the government doing in Florida? And what is the process for an individual which is unemployed to say, okay, I want to switch a job and go from being a restaurant manager or landscaping manager, whatever, into a more technology field, which is not necessarily IT, but could be healthcare technology or other type of manufacturing technologies and so forth. What advice do you have for an individual?
Yeah, so there's luckily, when you think about the state of Florida, there's great resources that are available. So if you're unemployed, underemployed, and looking, or maybe even perhaps, as you mentioned, looking for a career change, there are resources. So for starters, there's Career Source Florida. And underneath that umbrella, so CareerSource Florida is the policy-making body for workforce development boards and organizations. What everyone probably is familiar with, because it carries the same moniker here in Florida, is CareerSource. So there's one in absolutely every region. Those organizations are tasked with working with individuals who are either unemployed or really do need a skills upgrade or retraining to enter the workforce at a place that makes them self-sufficient and that makes them, I call it more valuable to and less vulnerable to unemployment, really. So in those instances, they provide training resources in the way of scholarships. They're referred to as individual training accounts, but individuals can take advantage of those resources for those who qualify and get retrained, oftentimes at no cost. The great thing again about Florida is that even with our educational institutions, our higher ed groups, whether it's our technical colleges or our community colleges, we've all received significant amounts of funding to be able to support efforts that lead to retraining and rapid credentialing. So really, if you're interested in doing something new with your life, there is no reason why you can't. This is probably the best time that you'll ever have to do it. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the work of Department of Economic Opportunity as well as Florida Department of Education. Again, all very vested in making sure that by the year 2030, that's Governor DeSantis's goal, that we will have 60% of our Florida residents with a credential. So we're very committed to making sure that there's a skilled workforce.
That is great. I didn't know that. That's good to know. That's a good thing to know. In terms of, you said that your organization, the one that you are the leader, the vice president, works with employers. Now, TCC, the Tallahassee Community College, is not just for North Florida. You work with, different, South Georgia or Alabama, and and South Florida and so forth. So when it comes to employers, so let's say employers in South Florida, for example, I was with the president of a company in Miami yesterday, and he was talking about the shortage of talent and where to go and who can help him, so what in terms of employers, what advice you have for employers in either Florida or surrounding states? So how can they come to TCC and your organization for help? I guess in particular to this area of finding the right people with the micro credentials, with the right skills and the certifications, Kim.
The great thing about it, I always share with employers, because of course I work on the consulting side of working with employers too, even within our institution, is that first looking from within, really assessing what their talent needs are, not for today, but just also for the future. So really looking at that, and then what needs to change and what are the possibilities. We can handle those conversations. We do it on a day-to-day basis. I think the other part of what advice I'd give to them is to really think strongly, not just about this current hard moment that we're all working through with the worker shortage, but really do take the time to think about the value of creating a talent pipeline. We've had the luxury in the past of not having to, there were lots of people applying for your jobs, and you didn't necessarily have to compete. Now there is great competition. So if you're not working with your educational institutions in your local areas to create that talent pipeline, that's where you're missing the boat. And I really do believe that that's probably going to be one of the most critical opportunities that every employer needs to take advantage of. Why? Because educational institutions have the nimbleness to be able to create these programs that match what it is that you need for your workforce.
That's awesome. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because for us, in our Global Links company, one of the things that we have learned that has a big value, besides creating an ecosystem with different, Global Links is a training company and a consulting company, but we collaborate with competitors too, with other training companies, and because we complement each other. Like, for example, Goodwill has courses that Global Links offers, and vice versa, but some of them, are different. So when it comes to train individuals, we all have to collaborate. So the one of the things that I believe I have shared with you is, besides the Global Links ecosystem, the pipeline that we have in Global Links is just amazing. Now, we have been successfully done it in Ohio, and what we're trying to do now is expand it to other states, and of course Florida is one of the ones that I have a personal reason, as you know, because my daughter lives in Florida,
Yes.
so that I can spend more time there. But no, seriously. So the pipeline is something that at least I can say that managing the pipeline where the members, like the universities, the train companies, and the other government organizations can find the individuals to come into the pipeline, so that employers in the other end can receive those individuals that come from these stakeholders and being already trained, certified, so that employers have the talent they need. So the pipeline at the end of the day is where like they say, where the rubber meets the road. It
Yes.
is the how to get these things resolved. And I completely agree with you. The pipeline is the way to get it resolved. And all of us, the different government organizations and other companies and training providers and employers, we got to work together in this pipeline. So I'm very excited about, continue working with you and TCC and the other, Florida organizations, Kim. But this has been a very, very good discussion. Anything else that you think will be good, important for the listeners to be aware of what you're doing, or any other advice before we wrap it up?
I think the one thing that I want to conclude with, it's always great having a conversation with you. But the second part of it is that everyone should be on the lookout for the work that you and I are jointly going to be doing in 2022, the first quarter, with our collaboration, and what it will mean for business, what it will mean for education, and what it will mean for communities, and how we make them stronger. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be amazing for those of you that are listening in on it.
That sounds good, Kim. Well, this has been a great discussion. I look forward to continue the partnership with you, Kim. I am always, every time I talk to you, I learn something. So thank you so much for taking time for your busy schedule, Kim. And with that, I would like to conclude the session. Thank you, everybody that joined us today. And please join us for the next IT Live session in December. And again, Kim, thank you so much.
Same here. See you later.
Yeah, take care. Bye now.